Hi friends, Cole from Selkirk United Church here with our midweek message for October 21st, 2020. First of all, a midweek announcement ahead of our annual roast beef dinner that's coming up this Sunday, October 25th. The announcement includes that our tickets have all been sold. So that's good news. Sorry if you missed out this time, but there's always next time. So we will have 200 guests coming out this Sunday to the church for our drive-by roast beef dinner. A big thanks to all of the volunteers and the folks who have generously contributed towards the costs. If you have ordered tickets but have not yet paid for them, the committee's asking if you can please do so before Sunday. It just makes it easier for them during that busy day if they don't have to deal with money at the door. So if possible, if you could e-transfer or drop a check in the locked mailbox at the church sometime between now and Sunday, that would be much appreciated. Now for this week's message. It actually comes in the form of a question, so it could have been part of a Questions for Cole episode, I suppose. But I think this one fits well as a message. The question is, why do Canadians say sorry all the time? A colleague of mine, Maura Murray Hayes, preached a whole sermon on this recently. She talked a bit about how, first of all, we have some good examples from the Bible that have probably influenced us over time, maybe even subconsciously. The story of Jacob is one. Jacob goes from a life of dishonesty, cheating his brother out of his inheritance, disrespecting his father, leaving his mother and taking off to live the high life. But Jacob returns to his brother to make peace. And he tries to apologize in many different ways, including sending messengers with words of apology and sending gifts, a huge number of gifts Jacob sends his brother, trying to make amends for his past. Near the end of that story is a story within a story, the story of Jacob struggling with God, wrestling with God, seeking a blessing from God before he can actually go to his brother and find that final reconciliation. It's a good story of apology. And maybe that has influenced us throughout our history, the need to seek reconciliation with those we have wronged, but also the need to wrestle with God, to seek God's blessing in the midst of that, to make sure that we're seeking God's guidance and wisdom for the words that we use, and whether or not we're going about it in a way that is faithful to God and to the other party involved. That's just one of the stories that teaches us how to be in relationship with other people and with God, and that's a good one, especially when we have done something wrong like Jacob had. And it's pretty obvious why we need to be sorry in those instances, why we need to make an apology. We can probably all think of lots of examples, occasions in our own lives when we've done something wrong and we've needed to apologize. But in Canada, we take it a step further than that, don't we? I saw a perfect illustration for this a year or so ago. Someone had posted a picture of a city bus that had just been in an accident with a car. It didn't look like a serious accident. The car was in front of the bus, and it was obvious that there had been contact between the bus and the car, probably just a fender bender. I don't think anyone would have been injured. But in the picture, on the long, narrow digital screen, the readout, uh, there was above the bus's windshield, there was the word sorry. And that's the message that always flashes on our buses when they're not in service, when they're not taking any passengers at the moment. It takes turns flashing between sorry, not in service, sorry, not in service. And a photographer had just perfect timing, catching it right when the bus was saying sorry, as though it were apologizing to the car for bumping into it. And the caption underneath the picture read, "Only in Canada." Maybe you've seen that picture somewhere along the way. It's perfect. Anyway, we don't even know if it was the bus's fault in the first place. Doesn't matter. It's Canada. We say sorry whether it's our fault or not. At least that's what our reputation has become through the years. I'm not sure that that's as true now as it once was, but that's our reputation. Back to the Bible, there's a pretty big story that might have had some influence on this behavior of ours. It's the story of Jesus on the cross. Now, there are different theologies and Christologies about the cross and what it means, its significance. I'm not going to get into all of that today, but suffice it to say for our purposes that the traditional belief is that Jesus was saying sorry for the sins of all humanity. There's a fancy theological phrase for that called substitutionary atonement. I've got some thoughts on that one that I've shared before and I'll share again in the future, but for today, let me just say that the basic idea of one person apologizing on behalf of another can lead to a very positive, constructive way of being in relationship with one another and with a group of people. Maybe we learn some of that from Jesus. When you think about it, our reputation as Canadians isn't just that we say sorry a lot, it's that we're nice. We're easy to get along with. We're generally not seen as being a very aggressive people. I think that's a pretty good way to be. Maybe it starts with something as simple as saying sorry, and not in a disingenuous way either. You know what I mean by that. If you've ever tried to force one child or grandchild to apologize to their sibling and they're not quite in the mood for that yet, you'll often get a very disingenuous apology, which might sound something like, sorry. That's what I would call a disingenuous apology. So I'm not talking about that kind of apology. I'm talking about one where you really mean it, about being genuinely sorry for either causing harm to someone else or even causing a minor disruption in their day. We've probably all apologized in the grocery store or the department store for being in someone's way. The perfect example is when two people are walking right toward each other and they both sidestep in the same direction and they're still in each other's way. And then they both move the other way and they're still in each other's way. And they're both apologizing to each other the whole time. Oh, sorry, sorry, sorry. You've been there. You know what I mean. And it's not really anybody's fault, and it's not really a big deal. But it's just kind of a social contract that we have decided to enter into with each other. We apologize. And it can work to actually diffuse or neutralize a negative or a tense situation before it even happens or before it escalates into something else, not just in the grocery store, but in the rest of life too. There's another meaning to the word sorry, which is somewhat different than apology. It's more like compassion. Sometimes when we say sorry to someone, we're just empathizing with them. We are sorry when something bad has happened to someone else, not because we feel responsible, but just because we sympathize with them. We feel bad for them. Saying sorry is our way of letting them know that we care about them. In her sermon on this topic, Maura Murray Hayes says that apologizing is a strong Canadian value that we should keep practicing. I agree. She ends her sermon by saying that I'm sorry is a Canadian tradition and that it's also the Christian thing to do. Food for thought. So let's keep saying sorry and living out our well-earned Canadian reputation. In fact, let me practice a bit right now. I'm sorry if this topic wasn't what you were hoping to hear today. I'm sorry if I went on a bit longer than you would have liked. I'm truly sorry if you are having a tough time with this pandemic. I know that a lot of you are. Don't be afraid to reach out to me and to others. There are a lot of people who want to help in whatever way we can. I'm sorry that I didn't actually answer the question that I asked at the beginning of this episode. Why do Canadians say sorry all the time? We talked about sorry in general, but I don't know why Canadians specifically are so apologetic. We're not the only ones who grew up with those Bible stories. We aren't the only ones who are nice. We have all sorts of similarities to other countries, but for some reason we are the I'm sorry country. Well, I'm glad we are. I think it's therapeutic. I think it's constructive. I think it promotes a positive kind of humility that can help to build healthy relationships. It certainly beats the alternative, in my humble opinion. And I'm sorry if you don't feel the same way. That last one was probably a bit disingenuous. Sorry about that. I think I'll quit while I'm ahead. That's all for today. I'm not sorry that you tuned in today, and I hope that all of you have a good week. I'll see you next time. God be with you. Bye for now.